Hello and welcome to our channel, Bryant Family Farm. We are a small family-owned farm located in Shepherd, Michigan. This video is another video in our Making Maple series. Today we'll be looking at how we turn maple sap into pure maple syrup using our evaporator. After we have collected the sap from our 500 taps tapped in maple trees in our woods using a vacuum tubing system and collection bags, we haul the sap to our sugar shack. When the sap arrives at the sugar shack, the sap is pumped into one of our sap holding tanks where it is stored until it can be processed. The next step in the process of making our pure maple syrup is using a reverse osmosis machine to remove approximately 2/3 of the water from the sap. The RO works by forcing the sap under high pressure through membranes with tiny pores in them. The pores in the membranes are small enough to let the water molecules pass through them, but not the larger sugar molecules. This process increases the sugar content of the sap from around 2% to approximately 6 to 8%, depending on the settings. The RO creates two different products: the concentrated sugar sap, which is called concentrate, and permeate, which is the water that was removed from the sap. The RO pumps the concentrate to what we call our head tank, which is where the sap is stored until it is needed for the evaporator. From the RO, the permeate is pumped into two storage tanks, will later be used to rinse and wash the RO after all the sap has been processed. To measure the sugar content in the sap, we use a sap hydrometer. We collect a sample of the sap from the storage tank and place the hydrometer in it. The hydrometer will float at the level of sugar content. This sap is right about 2% sugar. We also use the hydrometer to check the sugar content of the concentrate leaving the RO. To do this, we take a sample from the line running from the RO to the head tank. After we have collected a sample, we float the hydrometer to measure the sugar content. Today we have lots of sap to boil, so I'm running the RO a little harder than I usually do to cut back on the amount of time I have to run the evaporator. Usually we take the sugar content to around 6%, but today it's running at about 8.5%. We also check the permeate to make sure that no sugar is going to waste. I take a sample of the permeate from the line running to the permeate storage tank and float the hydrometer in it. The hydrometer is floating right at zero, which means no sugar is being wasted. We have an electronic sight gauge to monitor the level of concentrate in our head tank. Once the tank gets close to full, it's time to light the fire and get the evaporator going. We light the fire using a small propane torch. Once a small fire is lit, we close the door and turn on the forced draft blower. The blower gets the fire burning very quickly. Within just a few minutes of lighting the fire, the pans begin to steam and the syrup and smokestack temperatures rapidly rise. In approximately 10 minutes, the sap in the evaporator is at a rolling boil and the stack temperature is over 1000 degrees. The evaporator boils the water out of the sap, leaving sweet maple syrup. Nothing is added to the sap to make maple syrup. The evaporator consists of three parts: the arch, which is where the fire is at, a sap pan, which has raised flues, which allows the fire to pass through the sap, and the syrup pan, which further boils the syrup until it reaches the desired density. The majority of the water is boiled out in the sap pan. We boil the sap to around 7 degrees above the boiling point of water, or about 219 degrees. The actual temperature varies daily depending on weather conditions. Once the temperature of the syrup reaches the desired temperature, our automatic draw-off system opens a valve and lets the finished syrup slowly flow from the evaporator where it is collected in a pail. To ensure the sugar content of the syrup is correct, we collect a sample from the evaporator using a Murphy cup and float a syrup hydrometer in it. The Murphy cup tells us the correct density for finished syrup at the current temperature of the syrup. As you can see in the video, the density of the syrup is currently a bit too high. When this is the case, I will adjust the set draw-off temperature lower so that the finished syrup is at the correct density. After the syrup is drawn off the evaporator, it will be stored in a barrel or bottled to be sold. This process will be covered in another video. We hope you enjoyed learning about how we make maple syrup here on our farm and all the hard work that goes into making the food that you eat. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please like it and subscribe to our channel.